Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Mid-Atlantic Teaching Artists Virtual Retreat. My name is Precious, and I work at the Maryland State Arts Council. The session will be recorded and later shared, so please turn off your video if you do not want to be recorded. Today's workshop is titled Side Hustle, How to Get Seen, Heard, and Paid, and will be led by Rasheem, Coleman, and Krystal. So before we do introductions and move forward to the session, I'd like to turn things over to our producer for a brief review of some technical housekeeping items.
Great, thank you, Precious. My name is Susan Zal. I will be behind the scenes. You can feel free to chat me with any questions. So on the next slide, I want to just show you some of our Zoom tutorial slides that we have. And this one is so that if you want to pin the interpreter, and if you haven't found the interpreter, you can scroll through the videos to find, it's under interpreter, Laura, and you can pin the video by clicking on the three dots at the top right corner of the video, and then click on pin video. If you prefer to see a gallery view, you can go on your top right of your screen and click on gallery, and that will bring up anyone's webcams or videos that they have active. And chat me with any questions. On the next slide, if you get any trouble, like you get disconnected or anything, just use the same link that you used to come on in and you'll be able to rejoin the meeting. As was mentioned by Precious, these sessions are being recorded, so if you do miss something, you can watch a recording at a later date. And if you have any questions where you get bumped out, can't get back in, feel free to call my cell, and there's my number. You can write that down, and I'll send that in chat in just a moment as well. The next slide, I'm going to show you a little bit about your controls. If you don't see them, point your cursor to the bottom of your screen, and they should pop out. And then if you go to the right, you should see chat. It's a little blurry right here, but it's say chat there. You can double click on that, and that's where you can send us questions, and I do see some coming in already. To the left, you'll see a participant list. If you double click on that, that'll pop out your participant panel. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you how you can change your name. So once you have that participant list, you hover over your name and until it says more, and then choose rename. And you can change your screen name and go ahead and add your pronouns. So go ahead and try that. And then on the next slide, I want to show you one more thing. There are some icons at the bottom. You can raise your virtual hand. It'll look a little different than this. This is at the bottom of the participant panel. There's a blue hand, a green check. There's a couple things under more, like a clock if you need to step away. So feel free to use those as well. And I believe that's my last one. So I'm going to give it back to Precious.
Thank you, Susan. So I'd like to officially introduce and welcome Rasheem, that uses she, her pronouns, Coleman, that uses they, them pronouns, and Krystal, and she uses she, her pronouns. They are collectively the founders of the Side Hustle Institute. They help teaching artists get seen, heard, and paid. I encourage everyone to view all of their bios in full. They have some amazing, vast histories and biographies that are super exciting. So please welcome the founders of the Side Hustle Institute for this workshop, and let's begin.
Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for joining us. As said before, my name is Rasheem, and my colleagues here that we have are Coleman and Krystal. I'm really excited. We are really excited about talking to you about how to get seen, heard, and paid. I really want us to engage a lot and make this is going to be very interactive. So I just want to let you know right now, if you don't have it handy, feel free to go ahead and get a sheet of paper and a pencil. This will not be a sit back and get information poured into you session. This is a session where you're going to interact, you're going to write things down, and we want you to engage in the chat just to get a little bit of practice of engaging in the chat. I have a quick question for everybody. I just want to know, what show have you binge watched from beginning to end since this whole quarantine thing started? And you can go ahead and just type that in the chat. Just let everybody know what show you have watched from beginning to the end to the very last episode. And type that into the chat. And Krystal and since I can't see it, they will read the different shows out there that people have put in the chat.
Not if I'm muted. Watchmen, what a great choice. A lot of Arrested Development, great. As a comedian, I appreciate that. Someone went back to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Respect that.
Wow.
You reach back
I'm not
to a
mad.
happier time. To a
I'm not
happier
mad.
time. All the RuPauls, just all the drag races. And that's a lot of seasons. Harry Potter movie, that's a marathon. Someone went on a binging marathon. I see you. The Office and other Little Fires Everywhere. I heard that was really great.
Oh, that was good.
Lord of the Rings trilogy, again, just a lot of marathons happening. The Marvelous Miss Maisel, that's on my list. I just finished Umbrella Academy. I'm so sad season 2 is over already.
Wow.
All 6 of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Okay, Bob.
Wow.
Yes,
Credit.
Bobby.
That's extra credit binging right there.
It's awesome.
Parks and Recs. A lot of great choices.
I love it. I love it. So those are some things that I'm definitely going to put on my list. And I am super not mad at Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, not at all. As we move into the session, let's just get right into it. What do we mean when we just say the term side hustle? What we're just basically saying is, you know, a side gig, additional job, additional stream of income. So some of us have jobs where we are currently teaching, or we're working at admin, or we're doing whatever the one particular thing is, but we're also artists, we're creative. So we have multiple skills, multiple things that we can access, and there's ways in which we can monetize that. Who are we and why are we talking to you about this? So we've only put a few of our side hustles here. So Ty Coleman is an improv comedian. He's a community artist. He's also a teaching artist. He doesn't have that listed up there. Art integration specialist and a workshop facilitator. I am a self-taught artist myself, mixed media. I do community arts, murals, nonprofit consultant, and also a teaching artist as well. Krystal is a diversity and inclusion educator, workshop facilitator, co-owner of Melanated Apparel, of the shirt that she is currently wearing right now. They also make awesome face masks if anybody is interested. So collectively between us, we have about 9 different streams of income, or 9 different side hustles. And largely those are connected to our artistic ability or our passions. It's just things that we're passionate about. This is a bit about how we're going to spend our time together today for this short time that we have you. And I just want to let you guys know that the Side Hustle Institute is a longer process. It's several workshops. Each workshop is about 2 hours, but what we're going to try to do is give you as much as we possibly can and pack it into this 1 hour time period. So we're just basically going to build on your value and just kind of bring that out. We're going to start with what is unique about you, what is the value that you bring that is unique, how do you communicate that value to others, and then we're going to get into leveraging that value. So it's a snowball that's going to build up. And we're going to try to get, as much information to you that is typically in a much longer workshop, condensed into an hour. But don't worry, for people who want to stay connected and get more, we'll provide you an opportunity and ways to be able to do that. I'm going to go ahead and start it off with Krystal.
All right, hi everybody. So what we're trying to do in this part of the presentation is just to share a few key lessons about how to match your skills and passion with the right customer so that you can carve out a profitable niche for yourself, whether or not you are you're trying to monetize a skill or a particular passion that you have, or if you are trying to build an actual business. All of these lessons will be helpful. We think, from our experience, they will be. So I'm going to take this opportunity to share a few lessons about how my business partner and I started one of our side hustles, Melanated Apparel. What I find to be valuable about opportunities like this is that it saves a lot of time and effort and heartache if you are able to learn from other people's successes and failures. You don't have to learn all the hard lessons yourself. So this gives you a head start in building a successful and profitable business. So for the next few minutes, I just want to talk to you about how to match your skills and passions with the right customers to carve out your niche in the marketplace. This is especially important these days, as the COVID-19 pandemic is forcing us to be innovative in how we operate our businesses. We're having to adjust to a new normal, right? So, you know, in order to help us do that, being clear on our unique contribution to the market and to how your customers and to how do you serve your customers and the world, puts you ahead of the game in terms of figuring out how to pivot when things change dramatically. So as we go through the next few minutes, there'll be opportunities for you to share your thoughts, ideas, and reflections. I'm going to invite you to do that in the chat so that we can all learn from each other. So let's start with a quick question. Is there anybody here interested in starting a small business or have already started a small business? And what kind of businesses are you interested in? Are you considering? So you can put that in the chat and we'll get back to that after in a couple minutes. So first things first, building a profitable business and doing it well takes a good bit of work on the front end, but it will undoubtedly save you a lot of time in the future. Most importantly, putting in the effort now sets you up for success because you'll be prepared to take advantage of opportunities as they arise unexpectedly. As you know, as we say, success happens when preparation meets opportunity. So we're trying to this session is to help you get prepared to meet those opportunities and be successful. So let's explore this concept through the lens of this question. What is the benefit or result that your customer will get from your product or service? All right. So first we'll talk about your products and services. And I encourage you to take the time now to specify products and services you currently offer or that you're interested in offering. So let's go back to the chat here real quick and see what are some of these businesses that you guys are starting. So I'm seeing selling art and teaching workshops, freelance writing, poetry therapy groups. Okay. Let's see here. Selena had to pivot from a cafe and gallery for social practice to something mobile and virtual, okay? Teaching Indian classical dance and running a dance company. So there are a lot of different business opportunities that you guys are creating for yourselves and for others as your businesses grow. So let's talk about your products and services. It's worth taking the time to write these down and come up with a brief description of what it is exactly that you do. So for example, one description that I heard someone describe themselves was, I'm a unicorn who helps people make their dreams come true. Or maybe you're an artist with a particular talent for painting or with a special medium or using non-traditional materials to create sculptures. So the questions that you ask yourself are, how do you do this? What unique combination of skills do you have to offer? What are you passionate about and what do you do really well? These are the questions that you ask yourself to try to figure out the value that your product or service will create for your customer. So thinking now about the benefits that your product and service will offer to your customers. How does your product help a customer solve a problem? Maybe like Selena was saying, that her customer wants to learn how to dance in an Indian classical style. And so that is the niche that Selena's Indian dancing classes will provide for their customers. It helps to be specific about the problem or the needs or the pains that your product is helping people to address. So for example, if you're a musician who writes music that helps people to forget or to feel young again or to be entertained or feel excited, that statement highlights the benefit, the results that your customer can expect to get from your product. Another important element for you to consider is to get clear on who your customer is. So who are you creating your product or service for? Maybe you run a nonprofit organization that creates space and opportunities for children with disabilities to learn through music or performing arts. Or maybe you are aiming at art collectors who want unique, high-value pieces. Being clear about who your customer is helps you to target them in ways that are unique. So to summarize, when you're identifying your products and service offerings, think about what's unique about you as an artist, about the products that you provide, and who is the audience that you are targeting. So think about what your story is, what's the story behind your brand, behind your business, what's the story about your art, how did you get to the point where this is the service that you're offering. An interesting spin might be to talk about how you're adapting your business to the current new normal, right? What's the story behind that? So thinking about what that story is will help you make the case to your customer that your products and services are for them. Next slide, please. So here's an opportunity to see some of this in action, right? So I'm going to use Melanated Apparel, my business, to help you see how this process works. Let me tell you a little bit about my company, Melanated Apparel. Several years ago, around the time when the Black Lives Matter movement was emerging, my work colleague and I identified a problem that, it seemed to us that people of color, and particularly Black people, were seen as just one thing. It just seemed like folks failed to appreciate the diversity within the Black community, and especially also other communities of color across the world. And so we were tired of the negative stereotypes and the stories being told of people of color. And we were working at an HBCU at the time, and we could see the impact of these stereotypes on the students that we were working with. And so we wanted to do something about that. So we started Melanated Apparel, and our goal was to combat negative stereotypes of people of color through fashion. So we wanted to provide kind of a way for people of color to be able to manifest pride in this particular social identity. So some of the best advice that we got was to create a business plan. And again, this is part of how you set yourself up for success in the future, is to put some of this down on paper, actually write it down, whether with a pen or a pencil, or type it up. Make sure you have it written down, because you forget significantly more than you think you will. At least I do. So it was well worth the time and effort for us to do that, because as time went along, we were then prepared to take advantage of opportunities that came our way. For example, we were invited to participate in over Kwanzaa, the Creative Alliance. We were invited to sell our products there, and so we had our marketing stuff together already. So we were just able to use the things that we had already put together to set ourselves up for success for events like that. So, it was, again, like I said, it was well worth the time and effort. So let's take a look at Melanated Apparel through the lens of our previous question, right? What is the benefit and result that your customer can expect from your product or services? So we answer that question in our mission statement, which is paraphrased on the slide here. So it says, Melanated Apparel helps people of color, so that's clearly identifying our audience or customers, to combat negative stereotypes, negative perceptions and stereotypes. So that's the benefit, by offering high quality products and apparel that allow them to manifest pride in their social identities. So that is the product that we're offering. So you can see that in our relatively concise mission statement, we clearly identify who our customer is, what we're providing for them, the product and service, and what they can hope to get from that product and service. Next slide, please. So another critical component to a successful side hustle is to identify your target market, right? So who are you talking to? Who are you providing your products and services for? Simply put, who are the particular groups or individuals at which your product or service is aimed? So if you have any ideas in the go ahead in the chat and tell us about who your target audiences might be for your small businesses or your side hustles. As I mentioned previously, at Melanated, we aim to serve people of color and people who share our values, right? So some of these values are, for example, believing that Black Lives Matter, believing that education is important. And that's, from a branding perspective, which Rasheem will talk about later, you'll notice that in our logo, the ED is highlighted, and that speaks to the educators or the folks who are in pursuit of their education. That's one of the ways that we highlight that. And we're not just talking about like traditional education, going to school, going to college or so on. Educational pursuits for us encompass things around self-improvement of any kind. So if you are, building a business and you are learning from that experience, your Melanated is for you. We specifically focus, though, on people who identify as students and educators. So let's see here who in the chat. Let's see some of your target audiences. So I see schools and schools districts, teachers or parents looking for quality online educational content. Okay, talk about the pivoting for the current times. Students and schools, residents of Prince George's County. So I would encourage you to think on a more granular level in terms of identifying your target audience. The more precise that you can get with regards to who your audience is, the more precisely you can target them in terms of products and services that you offer, and then also your marketing, which we'll talk about later. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so one of the things that we did in order to help us identify our target audience, but also to help our members of our target audience to identify us as a company that is available, is around to serve them, is to develop customer profiles. So customer profiles help us to quickly identify our customers and vice versa, right? So my ideal customer from a melanated standpoint is someone who shares the values of my company, like I said before. This could be anyone from Danielle, who is a Baltimore City resident. She identifies as Black. She loves everything about being Black, and she thinks her family is the most important thing in the world. Or it could be Jaden, who is an international student from St. Lucia, who values economic liberation, and this makes him more likely to support a small business, right? He may also be exploring social identities and privileges that he may or may not have for the first time within an American context, because again, he's from St. Lucia. To Tony, who is, who chose to leave college in their junior year, right, but loves to travel, is a first-generation US citizen, is a child of immigrants, and identifies as genderqueer, is very opinionated and shares their opinions and reflections on their travel and lifestyle blog. So these are details about the people who we identify as melanated customers that help us to reach out to them. So they reflect qualities of our ideal customer, and knowing this helps us to reach them through marketing and communications, but like I said before, to also craft my products and services to their specific needs. So for example, if I can convince Tony, right, that my product is for them, then I know that they'll share that opinion on their blog, right? Because they are very opinionated and they have a following through social media and through their blog. So they'll share that, that information with their followers. If I can convince Danielle that my product is for her, she might buy a bunch of t-shirts or a bunch of mugs for her family for Christmas or for birthdays and so on. So that supports kind of making personal and professional connections through word of mouth. And Ty will talk more about that later on and why that's so important. So my ability to meet their needs also makes them more likely to buy my product and to share information about my company with their personal and professional networks. And ideally that leads to more customers and more sales. So next slide, please. So how do we find each other? The final question is around where do I find my customers? Where do I meet them? How do I get them information about my brand? And so the question is, where do my potential customers, where are they hanging out? Where do they get their information? What sources of information do they trust? So sometimes these are members of self-identified groups, whether that's online or in-person, trade groups, online communities, social media, and very importantly, word of mouth. So family members, friends, people tend to trust referrals from people that they trust, right? So I'm trying to reach people through other people. So, Lord knows there's a Facebook group and a social media group for almost anything under the sun, but sharing their experiences with my products and services is a primary way that we at Melanated try to reach additional customers. And it's one of the most impactful ways to drive customers to our business and to your business. So I'm gonna pass the mic to Rasheem, who will who will talk to us about how to use branding and marketing to take your side hustle to the next level.
All right. Thank you so much, Krystal. That was super helpful. In identifying your target audience, one of the things that you want to be able to do after you've identified your value is to be able to communicate. How do I communicate this particular value to my ideal customer? And how do I let them know that we're a good fit together? Right? A lot of times, one of the common mistakes that folks make is they start off with logos and color schemes and they feel like that is their brand. However, that's not, that's the very tip. That's one of the last things that as a business development, if you want something that is going to be sustainable over a long period of time, you really need to establish a foundation. And that foundation is established with your brand story. The brand story is some of like, who are you? What is your story? What motivates you? What is your origin story? Krystal shared some of that earlier in talking about herself and her business partner, what motivated them to get started. And you sometimes you can also identify who you are and the best connection through your brand story. The next thing that you want to do is establish a marketing statement. Pretty soon we're going to go through an exercise where I help folks do a really quick first draft of a marketing statement. So in a marketing statement, some of the things you're going to articulate are, who do you work with? What do they care about? Sorry. How do they benefit from working with you or from your product? And you're going to take some of what Krystal shared earlier and you're going to build your ideal client or customer avatar. Those type of things, where is that going to go? That's going to go into when you establish your press kit, when you design your business card, when you're talking to a person verbally. Those are all the times that you're going to use that. In terms of your brand story, that's going to go in your artist statement. That's also going to go in places like your website. One of the really important things too that Krystal mentioned in building our avatar, she talked about the demographic, but she didn't just stop there. That's sometimes where we stop when we're marketing to our ideal client. We have to also take into consideration the psychographic of our ideal client. What are they passionate about? What upsets them? What are their hopes and dreams? Who might they have voted for? What television shows would they binge watch? Things like that will let you know a bit of the psychographic of your ideal client, because when you have that understanding, you know how to communicate messages to them. Then you get into your communication tools. So does your ideal client communicate through social media? Do they listen to social media? Are they podcast listeners? Do they listen to the radio? Do they search the internet, go to websites? Is the best place to reach them through email? Is it best to reach them through other clients? Knowing all of these other things about who your ideal avatar or ideal client is will help you to establish which communication tools you want. And then finally, you get into things like, how do you design your logo? What color scheme will be appropriate? And so forth and so on. One of the things that I like to frequently tell people in terms of communication tools, even if you learn that your ideal client frequently listens to podcasts and that's all they listen to, still utilize all of the other communication tools and just put more of your emphasis in the place where you know that your ideal client will reside, right? Why do I say that? The reason I say that is because back in the olden days, before the interwebs came and took over, the number of times that a person would have to see your product or service was, I believe it was 4 to 5 times before they would make a transaction with you. Now, the number of times that people need to see or engage with your product or service before they actually make a transaction with you, because the hemisphere is just so clouded with other products, other noise, other competitors, other things vying for people's attention, 65 times before they make a transaction with you. So that means email, that means website, that means you want to be on social media, that means you want to be on Facebook, you want to do Twitter, you want to do, if you're capable of doing TikTok, you want to take a stab at that as well. So those are all of the tools that are out there. So even if you have an ideal client and they primarily use one source, Again, put most of your energy there. However, utilize these other forms of communication because they're going to need to build a KLT. What is the KLT? People make transactions with people that they know, like, and trust. First, they have to know you. They will not know you unless you get their eyeballs on your stuff. Then the next thing is liking you. They don't know that they like you if they don't know who you are. Building trust. What is your brand story? What are you about? They're going to want to know that sort of information. So you can have a sort of a client or customer that comes and they see one product at one time and that's it. But what you want is a client that will stick around, and they stick around when they trust your brand story, when they can connect with your marketing statement, and when you have built up a significant amount of KLT with them. Then lastly, the very least important things are your color schemes and your logo. So let's get into a marketing statement and establish what that is for folks. So in establishing the foundation of a marketing statement, there are two main things. Your branding statement, the foundation of marketing, is your marketing statement and your branding story. What does your marketing statement have in it? It has 3 C's in it. If you don't have a sheet of paper, I would encourage you, get a sheet of paper and write this down. Your marketing statement communicates 3 C's. Your marketing statement is clear. That means I am not confused about what you sell, what you provide, what you have. I think a lot of times we get into marketing statements, we want them to sound beautiful and shiny and bright, but if at the end of it, if I do not know what you have or know that I need what you have, then it means absolutely nothing. Your marketing statement needs to be clear. Second thing, your marketing statement needs to be concise. If I'm meeting you, another place in which you would use leverage a marketing statement is in something how they say like you would do an elevator pitch. So if you met a person or if you're in networking and you're networking at a particular time, here's what we tend to do when we're at networking. We go to people, we have our business card. Before they even say anything, we're ready to give them our business card. We don't know who they are, what they want, what they need. And we try to sell them by giving them our entire resume, our bio, our life story, telling them that we walk on water and saying you could call my grandmother for a reference and she'll tell you that I'm an amazing person. At that point, we have completely turned them off. You want it to be concise enough and clear enough that it gets their attention, that they ask you for more. You don't want to be in a situation where they're like, this is too much, and they back off. Lastly, the third C in your marketing statement is you want it to be compelling. So what I mean by compelling is your marketing statement needs to speak to a transformation that happens, right? It needs to speak to a before and after of having your product or having your service. So you need your marketing statement to be clear, concise, and compelling. In your brand story, what exactly is a brand story? That is, what is your business's personality? Businesses have personality. We don't always think of it that way, but businesses do. And some of the best people who are best at marketing their business connect the personality to it, right? So often we see the reason why people have avatars for businesses is because people connect with actually other people, and there's a business behind it. So for example, we have Wendy's, right? So Wendy's is a little girl, she has red hair, she has freckles. Or you have KFC, he's the Colonel, he has a personality. Or you have the Pine Sol lady, that's a particular personality or avatar, right? You have Apple. Apple is young, it's hip, it's modern, it's cutting edge. LinkedIn, they all have certain personalities. Identify what your business personality is. Another aspect of your brand story is, what do you stand for? Especially in this day and age, it's not good enough to have a snappy jingle, a great logo, and even for your product to be great. If people, a lot of times when people have 2 products, especially with millennial generation and after, we want to know who you stand for. Are your diamonds conflict diamonds? Did you get this particular cloth from someone through illegal labor? That matters to people. Also, who do you serve and how do you serve them? And we're about to get into that. So I hope that gave you enough time to get a sheet of paper and a pencil, because we're about to dive into your marketing statement. So take out that sheet of paper, and I want you to start off with this. I work with blank who blank so that they can blank. This is very short because it's concise. I put the blank so that it can be very clear. Who do you work with? What do you work with them around? And what is the transformation that happens as a result? I want everybody to go ahead and start typing in their marketing statements in the chat. So some examples might be, I work with busy mothers on the go so that they can have it all and not feel guilty, right? I let you know, I gave you 2 adjectives in that. You know a bit about the gender of the person, but you also know a bit about the psychographic. They're busy, they have a tendency to feel guilty, and they're on the go. So who do you work with? I work with blank who blank so that they can blank. Let's see. Bobby says, I work with actors who want to improve their special skill list so that they can get more roles that involve circus and acrobatics and aerial arts. That is perfect, Bobby, because that is very clear. That is very specific. If I was a person who was either an actor, and if I was an actor and I wanted to improve my acrobatic and aerial arts, it wouldn't be hard for me to find you. Larry, I work with students so that they can realize their power of using creativity to express themselves. I love that, Larry, because I know that it tells me that you work with students, and your compelling part is the expression of self. That speaks to self-actualization. I would get a little bit more specific, Larry, around when you say students, who are the students? Students could be any age. So I would just get really specific around that. And maybe if you could say something around what the creativity is. Gerald says, I work with couples who want to have a wedding ceremony so that they can remember the words they say to each other for the rest of their lives. I love that. That's very beautiful, definitely compelling, and quite clear on who you work with. And Jason says, I work with local performing and teaching artists who create and who create great entertainment and education programs so that they can enrich cultural fabric of our state. I'm gonna tell you all the things I love about that, Jason. I love that you speak to teaching artists, one, so I can identify myself. And then you speak to teaching artists who create entertainment. That tells me something about the particular art, like that it's not necessarily visual. What I would like to see is when you say local performing artists, local to who, local to where? I work with artists in Baltimore. I work with Baltimore artists who are, what have you. Speak to what local is so that that can translate no matter where that's picked up. Selena says, I work with Latinx, Black, Indigenous, people of color, folks who are interested in addressing histories of systemic oppression so that they can creatively vision a path to an inclusive future of their communities. I love that. I'm gonna tell you that although that is extremely compelling to me, it gives me the demographic and it even gives me the psychographic, honestly, of the type of people that you would work with. If there could be more that you can have in there that would speak to how you do that. You don't necessarily have to say through workshops or that sort of thing. And then I'm going to move ahead, and feel free to tweak and work on that. And in the Q&A, if you have questions about your artist statement, we will absolutely get to them. I'm going to go ahead and, as Krystal said earlier, pass the mic to Ty.
All right, my mic sounds nice. Check one. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing those compelling marketing statements. As you're in the chat, I'd like to move to the intro question for mine, which is, what is the best meal you ever ate? So tell me anything you can remember about it, about the food, about the location, maybe it was a date. So just think about for a few minutes the best meal you ever ate. And let's put that in the chat and then we'll talk about that. 4 a.m. street dumplings in Shanghai. That just sounds like I as soon as you said that, I closed my eyes and I felt like I was there. And as you're thinking about like what the I know that's right, anywhere but here. As you're thinking about your best meal, the best meal you ever had, I want you to think about what you did after eating the meal. Who did you tell? French dinner in Hiroshima, Indian paneer chip. Ooh, grilled salmon, exquisite. Delicious. All right, I should move. I should not keep reading. Oh, clam bake at Art Campus. I should have ate before I started my presentation. I always forget to do that, and now all I want to do is eat all of these things. First Thanksgiving meal I cooked. Ah, that's very sweet. All right, great. So thinking about the best meal you ever had, right? Thinking about, keep putting those in the chat as we're moving on. But thinking about the best meal you ever had, the best meal you ever ate. The next question I have for you is, who did you tell after eating the meal? Did you tell anyone or did you keep it to yourself? You can put that in the chat or you just think about it as we move on to the next slide. So the reason, all of your friends, right? You told everyone. The reason why I say that is because there is a lot of things that marketing can do for you, but the one thing that's going to put you ahead of the game more than anything else is your work. So just like all of those meals where the chefs and the restaurants work, and the work speaks for them. So that's why Yelp is so popular. That's the first thing people go to when they're looking for a new restaurant. They go to Yelp. They don't go to the restaurant's Instagram page. They don't even necessarily look for a discount. They go to Yelp first, right? And they think about and they look at what other people's experiences are. So when you're thinking about your side hustle and you're thinking about how do I set myself apart, it's the work. The work is going to speak for you more than anything else. So make sure you are constantly investing in your work. Next slide, please. So a customer talking about their experience with you is worth 10 times that what you write or say about yourself. David J. Greer. And that's just going on, expounding on what I was saying. So I can talk all day about how I am the best improv teacher ever. I am the best youth admin person ever. And people might listen to me, they might believe me, but the first thing they're gonna do is they're probably gonna ask someone who's worked with me before. They're probably gonna ask someone who's worked with me before. They probably heard about me from someone who's worked with me before. And so that is why I always say my hustler serenity prayer, right? So I cannot change anything but myself. I can change my hustle and make sure that my hustle is always excellent. And when I say that, what I say is that for me, my standard is excellence. And to do that, you have to invest in your side hustle. So all of you are investing in your side hustle because you're all at a Mid-Atlantic Teaching Artist Retreat. That means that you are investing in your work enough to come to a retreat, take workshops, network with other people. So that's a part of it, that professional development piece. And also having a mentor. Does everyone have a mentor, has either had a mentor or have a mentor right now? Think about that for a second. Who is your mentor? Who is the person that is the next 2 steps ahead of you in your work? Is there anybody who is 2 or 3 steps ahead of you in your work that you talk to on a regular basis, you check in with, that helps you put you on the path? And if you feel like if you're going down a path you feel like no one's gone before, then find another trailblazer. Find someone else who has had to make a space that wasn't created before. Great. So I see some people have dance teachers, muralists, social practice artists that I work for. You're right. It is a game. It is a game changer because not only does it give you a sense of community, but also it helps keep you accountable. One thing that I love for my artistic integrity is I have accountability circles. So I have people that have side hustles. Either some of them are similar to mine, some of them are outside of anything I do, but we check in with each other. We have mastermind sessions, and we talk about just what we're doing, what we want to do next, and we help keep each other accountable. What is your accountability process? How do you keep yourself accountable? How do you assess your growth as an artist, as your side hustle? How do you assess your work growing? Do you develop a workshop and then do you just redo the workshop over and over? Or how often do you go back to your workshop and tinker it? How often do you update it? How often do you run your workshop by another professional to see where you're at? Investing in your work is worth 10 times any marketing that you can do. So good. So I see in the chat, I have a mentor for the artistic professional development, but not the business skills. Kristen, that's good and that's honest, because a lot of time for me as a teaching artist, I found that it's easier for me to find other artists for professional development, but sometimes artists are not as great as the business skills. So if the artists that you are talking to do not have those business skills, then you have to find someone that does have a small business. And also, one of the ways that we find mentors are things like this. We're in a group chat right now filled with people who are in similar industries, do similar works. If you haven't had a chance to, please join the face group for the Mid-Atlantic Teaching Artists Retreat that Precious put in the link earlier, and see if there are mentors available in that space, in our space. So think about where the mentor is at. And the one thing that I do when I look for a mentor is I look for someone doing what I want to do, not someone who's doing what I'm doing now. I'm not looking for a peer. I'm looking for someone who is 2 or 3 steps ahead of me. So if you don't have a mentor, I want you to think about who do you know that 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. Bobby says not all artists who are successful are not always open about who they get work from or how do they get their place they are in the industry. That's true. A lot of people are protective over that because there's this scarcity belief that there's only so many resources available and people feel like they have to hoard resources. That is true. That is totally true. However, nothing is going to stop me from getting what I want. So if there are artists that are closed about it, I am going to find someone who is open about it. Is it standard practice to pay a mentor? I find that if there are consultants, so if you're paying a consultant, an executive coach, then that is a pay situation, but a mentor and mentee is more of a relationship that you build mutually. So I haven't paid in money my mentor. So that's, to me, that's not standard practice, but there are people that you can hire as, like I said, an executive coach. You can hire someone who is a consultant that will consult you specifically in that. And you can also hire Side Hustle Institute, obviously. Good. So people are talking about needing a teaching artist mentor. So if you are a mentor available, and there is information available in the chat, so please exchange that. Give them something to talk about. No Bonnie Raitt. Again, that's just going back to the excellence as a standards. If you are investing in your product, in your hustle, then it is going to be a step above. And then also, going to the next slide. Thinking about what does your work say? So I want you to write this down in the chat, and then also on that piece of paper or Word document that you have out. What do you do well? And what makes your work or your hustle remarkable? So I want you to write that down. Think about that for a second. What do you do well? And I should say what makes. I don't know why I haven't changed that yet, but maybe that'll make this remarkable. But what makes your work or your hustle remarkable? So you already know what you do because you shared that in the chat already. You shared your marketing statement. So don't, this is not a new idea. Go back to your marketing statement, go back to what you wrote down, look at it, look at that first part. I do this for these people. And what about that is remarkable? What about that, if I had to put it up against another person doing a similar thing, what makes yours remarkable? And for this next part of this exercise, you can share the results of this in the Facebook group. But I want you to text a friend. Rasheem, if you can click the next part of the slide. I want you to text 5 to 10 friends. I put 5 to 10. I probably have like 3 or 4 I would text, but however many you want to text. And then I just want you to ask them the same question about you and your work. I'd like you to ask them the same question I want you to ask them, what do they think you do well? And what do you think makes your work hustle remarkable? And now I'm going to go to the chat and just see what people have for what makes their work hustle. Okay. So Bobby says, my work is nonverbal storytelling. I create visual stories. The flying human body is my canvas and midair my paintbrush. I don't use aerial arts and flying as a gratuitous moment for shock value. I create action that moves the storyline forward. Honestly, Bobby, if someone told me that, I'd be like, well, yeah, because no one's ever told me the flying human body is my canvas and midair is my paintbrush. So yes, that is remarkable. That stands out well. I couldn't put that up against anything else. Indian classical dance is something I do well, and what makes it remarkable is able to present it on a global audience in a relatable manner. So what I like about that is two things. Is one, it's the size of the audience, and also relatable. Keeping your work accessible is so important. A lot of time as artists, we can get really heady in our things and we forget about our audience. And so finding ways to keeping your work accessible to an audience means that you have more people that you can sell your work to. My art, drama therapy, teaching, writing, reflects my commitment to promoting self-worth and social justice. So getting really specific about what your art is, drama therapy, teaching and writing, and that it reflects your authentic self, right? Because that is the key to keeping your things separate, is making sure that your work is reflecting who you are and your authentic self. Awesome. Let's see if there's anything else. All right, good. So again, continue to share those things. What do you do well? What makes your work and your hustle remarkable? And like I said, in the Facebook group, then you can go ahead and share, what did your friend say? Like, did it add up? All right, great. Next slide, please. So communication. So networks are built on action and follow up. Action and follow up. So this is my very quick action and follow up flow chart. So tell them what you will do. So tell them what you will do is essentially the first part of this presentation, when you are talking about your marketing statement and your brand story, when you're finding your customers and everything else. So then you're going to do it. You're going to put some funk on it. That is standing out, being excellent, making sure that your work is remarkable, and then tell them you did it again, and you can tell them you did it, and then you can do it again. So that is following up after. Once you finish a presentation, once you finish a workshop, once you finish teaching a class, what is your follow-up process? How long do you wait to email them and let them know that to go over what you did, and to ask them to tell a friend about what you did? Just like we've been saying all presentation, word of mouth is very powerful. So when we follow up with organizations, for the Side Hustle Institute, for example, all of the gigs that we get after a presentation come from word of mouth. Either a participant sees that and they're saying, can you bring this to my organization? Or we follow up with the organization that we present for, and they pass our information on based on what we have. So whenever you're doing a workshop, whenever you're doing a presentation, make sure you have the next your how to get in contact with you, and also your next products available. All right. So speaking of following up, we're gonna share our contact information. So this is our contact information. Please go ahead and follow us on all the social medias, our website, and also take this moment to share your contact information in the chat. All right, so thank you all so much for that. I apologize for speeding past it, but like I shared in the chat, we do have an extended workshop available. And now I am gonna pass this over back over to Precious.
Thank you so much, and everyone, for attending today's session. A lot of really great information shared. Before we end, we'd love to take a minute to hear from you about how this lesson resonated with you. So our producer will post a quick poll in a second. So you should see it. It should say exit survey. It's very quick. It's just 3 quick questions. So as you're going through that survey, I want to remind everyone that recordings of this workshop and others will be available on the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies YouTube page within the week. Look to the chat. I'm about to put a link to our Facebook group, and please join us there to offer your reflections on today's workshop. I have added the Eventbrite workshop, the Extended Institute, to the Facebook group, so you can go ahead and get more information there. Also, please don't forget to watch your inbox for a brief survey every Friday about the previous week's sessions, and let us know what you think. We hope you will join us for tomorrow's sessions, which will be Teaching Artists in the Elementary Classroom, a discussion on what works, and Art as a Microphone, empowering student voices through transformative art education. And on Thursday, please join your state's cohort for the weekly meetup. The 2020 Mid-Atlantic Teaching Artists Virtual Retreat is a co-sponsored project of the Mid-Atlantic State Arts Agencies, and you can see all of our logos on the screen, in partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts and NASA, the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies. We are grateful for their generous support from all of our collaborators, and we're grateful for your participation today. So thank you. We'll give you 3 more minutes to look at the poll before we close today's session, and we appreciate you. Join us on Facebook. I am about to put it in the chat. Much appreciated.
Thank you all for the kind words as you exit. We really, really appreciate it. All of the great energy that you say was given to you is definitely a reflection of the great energy you gave for us. Thank you for being so active in the chat. I put our Eventbrite in the chat a few times, and it'll also be available on Facebook. So please stay connected with the Side Hustle Institute. And Rasheem put it in there one more time for good measure. Thank you. Because that's what hustlers do.
Did anyone have any questions, or everyone's good? All right.
Okay. Thank you, Rasheem. Thank you,
No
Ty.
problem.
Thank you, Krystal. Amazing presentation. And we can follow up on Facebook and via email.
Most definitely. Thank you so much.